Good morning. Today's meditation, I wanted to dive into a super important concept of how do we change the world, right? If we are talking about the ultimate potential of humanity and being our best selves and showing up daily, how do we influence the world around us, right? How do we make this world a better place? Ultimately is what it comes down to. There's a lot of pain and strife in the world. And I know that as a younger person, I struggled with that, right? I saw the pain, I saw the suffering, the fears of humanity around me. I still see it every day. And I want to reach out to those people and I want to help them in some way, right? I find that a lot of youth or people who care are people pleasers, right? We are trying to help the world suffer less. And in that bigger concept, I wanted to bring up a Sufi master called Rumi, who was a poet in the 1200s. Out of, I believe he was born in Turkey and ended up in Pakistan at his death, but basically Middle Eastern territories. In his famous quote, he had said, "Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise, so I am changing myself." And I wanted to dive into that quote a little bit and try to offer an understanding. Dr. Wayne Dyer also talks about this a little bit when he mentions the words, as I change the way I think, the world around me changes. Okay? Those very similar quotes. In the way that as I do my own self-discovery and dive into the pieces that have been broken or hurt or hindered in my life, right? I'm touching my heart space because I've had to grow through a lot of those pieces and pull them back together over my lifetime. As we do that inner work and heal the perceptions that separate us from reality, the reality we absorb after that healing is changed. Okay? It's kind of a deep concept. The Buddhists call them samskara, basically filters on how reality can exist in front of us. We have a perceived, I think I'm seeing this, and then the reality comes through that filter and then catches our memories, catches our perception, catches our awareness through that filter. Now that filter is what we're talking about. That filter, that assumed reality of the world will always be reinforced. You can challenge that concept. Think of a red Porsche. Doesn't matter what you think of. Think of a thing. Put it in your mind. And you'll start seeing it more and more often in the real world because it's in your consciousness. I think anybody can relate to that. When you start looking at, oh, I want a thing, whatever that thing is, and then you start seeing it more and more and more in the world to support that thing coming into your life or connection between you and that thing, your awareness just seems to absorb it more, right? Because you're conscious about it. It's that same filter, right? You're just allowing that filter to hone in on a certain thing. When we change our inner world, as Rumi was discussing, what we do is we heal the filters we've put in ourselves or absorbed. I'm not saying that every person has built their own filters. I fully recognize that until the age of 7, basically humanity is a sponge, and we just absorb the things around us the way that they are in order to try to understand at any level the world around us, right? We pick up our parents' habits, we pick up the people around us, their thoughts, their perceptions of the reality, right? I remember being a child in school going, I like that characteristic of that person, I'm going to be that. And learning how to adapt myself to become those things. You know, those are early concepts that I don't think as adults we value the depth of the work that was happening there. And honestly, the depth of the work that it takes to change it, right, is even more, because we spent years in that pattern, in that thought process, in that this is the world that I live in, this is the way the world is, I'm okay because I understand the world this way. And really what Rumi was getting to, and how we change the world, right, is we change ourselves and we heal through the pieces that were broken in order to see the world more clearly into reality. Okay? The more people take that individual approach to heal their world, the more they can then see what's happening in the outside world with different clarity. I won't say better, because that means judgment on something, right? If I'm saying something and I like or dislike it, that's a judgment about that thing. We'll get into this more, but that's where suffering comes from, okay? Suffering is that world I want to create and the difference within what reality is, right? I want a thing, reality is this, it's different than the thing I want, so I suffer or yearn or have desire or fear or shame that I couldn't do it. I'm judging it. That judgment is what separates us. That judgment is what causes us so much pain and suffering, is because we believe, because we were told or we created ourselves, certain things need to be there in order for me to be happy, which is all an illusion. In the truth, and some of other quotes and poems from Rumi and several other masters, there's this concept that when we get out of our own way, when we allow the judgments to not exist and just experience life without that judgment, natural joy fills our heart. That is the natural state. The natural state is to be so appreciative of this world, to absorb the colors and the beauty and the nature around us at all times. In fact, it can be so overwhelming that we blank it out or push it away in order to focus on what we gotta do, right? Like the gotta do. So I gotta go to work, I gotta pay my bills, I gotta pick up my kids, I gotta da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, you know, all the things that we gotta. So, again, to get through the healing that one needs is a way to open those doors to a different outside world. And I know that that's a hard concept. Once that healing happens, you can really look at the world as changed and healed or healing. I get that. I can look at the world now and recognize that it's not healed, but it's in its right time and place for healing to occur, right? There's so much suffering, there's so much pain in the world right now, that there's ample opportunity to create healing, right? There's an abundance of potential to find healing in one's heart because of so much pain. So just a little bit of growth can be a huge lightening of the load, emotionally, spiritually, physically to some people. Some people have physical ailments because of their emotional tensions, right? Stress can cause ulcers. There's a lot of interlinking between emotional states and physical realities, cancers, etc. There's lots of research out there. Feel free to do it. What I'm suggesting is, the more at peace we are, within ourselves because we have fixed what was not in flow. We have fixed what was out of alignment with reality. We have accepted truths that we didn't want to see before, right? When we've done that work, we can then sit back and watch and participate in humanity's healing without our own traumas driving it, which is key, because if we still have our own traumas, intentionally or unintentionally, we tend to bleed on others while we're trying to help them, right? Like, you need to do it this way because blah, 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 blah. But that's coming from our own perception that may or may not be healed. So it's hard to focus on other people and their healing when we're not in our own place of alignment. So again, to repeat Rumi and paraphrase really, in youth we can see the world and want to try to spend our time and energy wanting to focus on that outer world, to heal that outer world. But through life, through experience, through pain and our own suffering, we recognize that even if everybody wanted to change, which isn't the reality, we as outside forces don't have the power to change somebody else's internal world. And that's where healing happens. We can guide, we can support, we can challenge and confront illusions for people, but they have to do the work. The world only changes by people doing their own inner work. There's a lot of healing that needs to happen in this world, and there's a lot of time it's going to take to do that, and that's okay. The expression of life is that we don't feel okay as humans if we're stagnant. We don't feel okay if we're overwhelmed. We don't feel okay in ourselves if there's just so much on the outside that we can't even be conscious of all the things. So we got to go to that inside world to create our stable space, right? Our home, our conscious home, not our subconscious home, of which we just play out old routines and aren't responsible for them. We just go, oh, that's the way the world is, and we blame the world for our routines. It's about taking our own accountability, our own healing as a priority. Once we do that inner work, it doesn't stop. Just a hint, we're always growing. But it fulfills that basic need of spirit and life to expand. I mean, that's ultimately what we're here for. If we think of ourselves as a advanced houseplant, right? We need water and sunlight and nutrition to grow. As a human being, we need that same stuff. We need the light, right? We need the light of other spirits that bring joy to our hearts. We need the light of the sun and food and nourishment, all that stuff. I'm talking about light in multiple dimensions right now, but that light, that joy, are things that we need to express and expand in as a species. I mean, it's a comfort zone to just be in joy and allow the world to be around us as it shows up, not as we want it or need it to be in order to feel that joy. That's an illusion. So, anyway, some deeper concepts. I challenge you all to dive into yourselves, find one thing you're fighting, and try to embrace it. Try to find out where that fight is coming from, and try not to judge it, but establish a pattern for healing that one thing. Acceptance, self-love, there's lots of ways. If you get stuck, put a message on this video. I'm happy to help you through or give you ideas. It's not me doing anything. It's just sometimes between two people we can get a better understanding together than individually. It's called dialectic. It's an old term from ancient Greece, where the knowledge of two people is greater than the sum of the two people, right? Like, we can challenge each other and grow faster together. Anyway, I offer that. Have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful life. Have a beautiful healing. I hope you change the world.